Welcome back. As you know, I am Eli, the computer guy, here for the Daily Blob, where I shake my brain nipples every day to get some of that dirty YouTube money so I can afford to provide you folks hands-on, in-person technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell you want to do in Durham, North Carolina. Silicon Dojo, silicondojo.com. We have a class actually coming up tomorrow on AI and web scraping, completely full. Don't try to sign up. We have a class coming up in a couple of weeks on extending AI capabilities with REST APIs. We're going to be having more classes every couple of weeks. We're even going to start having some short weekend boot camps coming up in the next year. So if you're interested, take a look at silicondojo.com to see what our schedule is. Do remember, free to end user is not free. That's why I shake the brain nips every day. If you want to help support the project, there is a donor box link down below. And with that, the stupidity keeps getting stupider. Dear ministers, dear government officials from around the world, can I please turn your attention to Tucker Carlson? See, here in the United States, we have a valuable natural resource in the name of Tucker Carlson. And you know the valuable thing about Tucker Carlson? Tucker Carlson will say bat-shit crazy things. And then the politicians get to sit back and go, okay, so how is the world taking that? How is the population taking that? And when the politicians are asked about the batshit crazy things that Tucker Carlson said, they can go, oh yeah, Tucker Carlson did say that, didn't he? So anyways, I do have to give a shout out. I have to give a shout out. People do not realize how valuable Tucker Carlson actually is. Tucker Carlson may have in fact kept us out of World War III because he can say batshit crazy things and the politicians can kind of sit back, they can read the room, and then they can figure out what actual policy they should put forward. One of the things that I find fascinating right now with this whole idiocy going on with China is none of our politicians would just shut the fuck up. Like, please, politicians, all I'm asking you to do is shut the fuck up. Trump and Besant need to shut the fuck up. The Dutch ministers need to shut the fuck up. The German politicians need to shut the fuck up. And the Japanese prime minister most definitely just needs to shut the fuck up. You all need to go out. You all need to find your versions of Tucker Carlson and get them to say the crazy shit. Don't actually have the politicians do it. So one of the interesting things that's currently going on, again, with the whole, now that Trump has come into office, there's a whole beat on the China thing, right? And so the Western world, much of the world, has had an issue with China for 2.5 decades at this point in time. As I've said, as a full-fledged adult, I have heard the arguments against China for damn near 25 years at this point in time. So there have been problems with the trade relationship with China damn near since day 2 they got into the World Trade Organization. But the weird thing is, right, everybody just kept going along, right? Inertia. Everybody keeps doing the same thing they were doing yesterday because they did it yesterday, and they'll do it tomorrow because they did it today. Until you have a batshit crazy president come out of nowhere and just start doing whatever Trump is doing. I don't know what Trump is doing. He's doing what he's doing. You know what I'm saying? And the interesting thing now that Trump has taken the lid off of screaming about China, now everybody's screaming about China. And the problem is, I'm just going to put this on the table. China man is people too. China man is people too. China man president is a president, political creature too. And so the issue is that the entire world is deciding it's a gay old time to start beating up on the Chinese people. And the Chinese people, basically, they have to respond to some degree. I think a fascinating thing to look at with the relationship with China is, for a lot of the outside world, regardless of what was said or anything else, a Pacific pivot, Trans-Pacific Partnership, AI diffusion rules, all these kinds of things, one of the interesting things is that China, at least in the outside world, has been relatively sanguine. Not that they haven't done stupid shit, not that they haven't had fishing vessels ram, ships and do all kinds of other stupid stuff. But more or less, for a 1.4 billion person country and the rest of it, they have been rather sanguine. But the question becomes, right, when you're dealing with human beings, when you're dealing with people, is how long can they remain being sanguine? How long can they have a stiff upper lip and accept the slings and arrows from the outside world and just keep working. And at what point are they going to start taking it personally? And then when people start taking shit personally, everything goes to hell. Everything goes to hell. And so I think this is going to be an interesting thing right now, is just that so much of the policy towards China isn't simply being kept to the business realm. Right? It's not simply being kept to, we need more access to rare earths, ergo we are going to need this. We need to have a full supply chain in country, ergo we're going to do this. Well, the interesting thing with a lot of this stuff is it's more of that emotional reaction. The whole idea. I mean, you can't, like we heard this from the German minister or whatever, that basically you can't trust China. It comes almost from that concept, from their blood. The blood of a China man is toxic to the outside world. And then the question then becomes is where does this all spiral? Especially as the global economy goes into the crapper, because we are in a macroeconomic cycle right now where the economy is going down, and especially with everything, trade rules and tariffs and everything, it's probably going to get pretty damn bad. Now, one of the things you have to be thinking about with politicians, right, is they have to be seen to be doing something, has to seem like they are doing something of benefit for their country. And a lot of times what goes on with macroeconomic forces or macro forces in general is there's just not a lot that they can do, right? Politicians actually have a very limited amount of power many times. And so one of the things that politicians can do is when other things are going badly, the economy is going badly or healthcare is going badly or whatever else, they can pick fights with other folks, right? Here in the United States, right? Hospitals in the United States are shutting down every single month as we have a healthcare disaster. But the important thing is that we're going to go to war with Venezuela, right? Just as an example. And so I think one of the interesting things that's going to be coming up with China is as they become kind of the butt of everybody's frustration, or many people's frustration around the world, the question will be, what will China's actual response be to that, right? It's one of the things that I get concerned about, where I do feel like we may be pushing China into a war over Taiwan. Right? The more you push this idea that the outside world can force China to do X, Y, or Z, and you look at a lot of the Chinese people's, opinions of what's happened over history, right? By telling people that they absolutely and utterly can't do something, does that then, in a way, actually force them to do something? And then what does that look like for all of us? What does that look like for all of us? Oh, bad. I think that's my frustration with a lot of this, is I've talked about this for many years. Like when you go out there and you're doing a startup or you're doing anything, right? You can lie to everybody in the world. You can lie to everybody in the world. You can lie to the investors. You can lie to your employees. You can lie to your spouse. You can lie to your business partner. I do not recommend it. I don't recommend it, but you can. The one person you can never, ever, ever lie to is yourself. The moment you start believing your own lies, that's when everything truly goes to hell. And that's one of my big concerns with what's going on globally right now, is I do believe everybody is believing their own lies, right? I feel like the Trump administration really believes their own lies, that there's this idea that we can just reshore our entire industrial capacity in like a year because Trump dictates it. Right? The same hand, I feel like Europe believes their lies, that they are not basically beholden to the rest of the world. Europe continues to function because of the support of the rest of the world at this point in time, but they still think that they are the global power. And China, again, I'll tell this for the Chinaman get frustrated when I say this, but China fucking does propaganda too, boys and girls. And I think China is trying to push this story that they can simply decouple from the Western world and everything will more or less be okay. And I've got questions there. I've got questions there. And so the problem becomes, what happens when all the global powers are believing their own lies? Well, we're gonna find out, boys and girls. We're gonna find out. Anyways, this is coming from CNBC because the Japanese Prime Minister decided to open her mouth. Her mouth. Proof that women politicians, in fact, are not more intelligent than male politicians. Why don't we have more women politicians? Well, that's fine. That's fine. Just kind of expect the same crap to come out of them. Anyways, diplomatic spat between Tokyo and Beijing threatens Japan's already fragile economy. Basically, the Prime Minister for Japan came out and stated, reality, basically said that if Taiwan was attacked, that will be considered a national emergency for Japan because the United States would become involved in a war in Taiwan, and they are our ally, so they will get tied into a war with Taiwan, which is, yes, let me be clear, yes. You don't gotta say it though. You don't. See, that's the whole thing. Like there's a difference between something being a fundamental truth and you opening your fucking mouth and telling the world what that fundamental truth is. And surprise, surprise, Beijing is not so happy about this. And think about this. Think about everything that is currently going on, right? Trump with the tariffs and all that kind of thing. Netherlands seizing Nexperia's headquarters. Basically, the German minister coming out and saying that they have to de-risk with China. Think about all the international global strain China is currently under. And ask yourself, if a Chinese person was in fact, we know it's not true, but if they were human beings like us, how would we react? How would we react? Right? I remember after 9/11, right? There's a song, we put a boot up your ass. It's the American way. Why is there's this idea out there that Americans can put boots up asses? But China man, no. Just give me the fucking fortune cookie and fuck the hell off, right? Anyways, Japan's fragile economy, already hurt by U.S. tariffs. That's the other interesting thing with this. Our ally is already hurt by our policies. And declining investments in property faces another hit due to the diplomatic spat between Tokyo and Beijing. Miffed over Japanese Prime Minister Sanae Takaichi's comments related to Taiwan, China on Friday advised its citizens against traveling to the country. Japanese tourism exposed stocks fell in the aftermath of that warning, while experts caution the impact could be more severe over a longer duration. Mainland China tourists have been the largest group of foreign visitors to Japan so far in 2025 at about 5.7 million people, or nearly 23% of all visitors, according to Japan's National Tourism Organization. So basically, Japanese tourism to Japan is a quarter of all of Japanese tourism. The executive economist at Noruma Research Institute said tensions between the two Asian powers could result in a 1.79 trillion yen drop in Japan's GDP over the course of 1 year, about a 1/3% decline of the country's GDP. So simply not getting these tourists in would be a 1/3% decline in GDP on their own. Mainland Chinese tourists to Japan dropped nearly 8% in 2013 compared to 2012, when there was a dispute over islands off western Japan in September 2012, known as the Senkaku in Tokyo and Dayu, in Beijing. They see a similar risk with the current situation. Quote, "This is hardly catastrophic, but an unwelcome drag for an economy already struggling to find traction." Japan's third quarter GDP contracted by 0.4% sequentially, marking its first contraction in 6 quarters. On an annualized basis, the economy shrank by 1.8%. So again, think about all of this going on in the economic environment that it is, right? If you were in boom times and you take a haircut of 1/3% on GDP growth, whatever, right? GDP growth grew by 6%. It would have grown by 6.03% or something if this problem hadn't happened. But realize this is happening when the economy is already starting to fold in on itself. The current diplomatic spat started on November 8th when the Prime Minister said that a Chinese attempt to seize Taiwan by force would constitute, quote, a survival-threatening situation for Japan, adding that if U.S. warships intervened to break a Chinese blockade, Japan would be required to defend its ally, which probably is about as it is. China's Consul General retaliated on X, reportedly saying, quote, the dirty neck that sticks itself in must be cut off, in a post that was later deleted. This is going to be the interesting thing with a lot of this, as this whole idiocy continues, is how much more forceful is China going to feel like they have to be? And then one of the really interesting questions with this, we've talked about this before, with politicians and with the populace. When the politicians are trying to, be peacocks, do the pomp and circumstance and act tough for their constituents, at what point does it get to the time when the constituents demand it goes beyond puffery? That'll be a curious thing. Tokyo summoned China's ambassador to protest the extremely inappropriate remark, followed by Beijing summoning Japan's envoy, issuing travel warnings and deploying ships and drones near the Senkaku Islands, prompting Japan to scramble jet fighters. Chinese state-run editorials also took aim at Japan, with the state broadcaster saying last week that the remarks were, quote, an extremely egregious nature and impact and was, quote, gross interference in China's internal affairs. David Roche, veteran investor and president of Quantum Strategy, said this will last until the Prime Minister backs down from her position that there could be a potential Japanese military intervention over Taiwan, which is going to be curious because can she back down from that position? I don't actually know what our military treaties are with Japan. Hey, yeah, can you get on that? Could you figure out what our actual military obligations between us and Japan actually are? Because I've got to say, as an American, I know about NATO. I know about NATO. I don't actually know the treaty obligations with U.S. and Japan, Japan and U.S., but I don't, can she back down? If it's in the treaty obligation that they have to support the United States, then she literally can't back down because it's in the treaty. That's one of those weird things where something can be real and true and not talked about at the exact same time. You just don't got to say shit about it. Once you say shit about it, that's when it gets a lot stickier. Quote, this is a big red line for China, he said, adding, quote, this is seen by Beijing as a significant interference and a clear indication that Japan will be part of efforts to surround and deter China. Which is also, yes, agree with it or not, that's what's fucking happening. Roche said that even the U.S. maintains a stance of, quote, strategic ambiguity when it comes to the defense of Taiwan. Well, we did. We have a lot of ambiguity because of Trump being in office. But do remember under Biden, our first dead president, said the silent part out loud. Yeah, one of his less brilliant moments, he literally came out and said that we would specifically defend Taiwan if it was attacked by China, which was not supposed to happen. We were supposed to have strategic ambiguity. Maybe we would, maybe we wouldn't. Nobody really wants to find out. And then Biden opened his fucking mouth. And now this prime minister is opening her fucking mouth. Taiwan's importance to Beijing means that it cannot easily accept what looks like a policy change by the prime minister, and though the Japanese leader has insisted that her statement did not signify a change in stance, she cannot easily back down and risks looking weak if she caves to Chinese pressure. And so that's going to be the issue too now with all these politicians. None of these politicians want to look weak. We can't look weak. I remember back with George Bush. George Bush, when we were in the Gulf War, the second Gulf War. And you're going up for the elections, right? And there's Kerry and Kucinich and all those people trying to get Bush out. And one of the most fascinating things I remember from Bush, one of the most horrific quotes I heard from Bush, is Bush said, if we pull out of Iraq now, What do we tell the families of the soldiers that were killed up until this point in time? We have to continue fighting the war, or the soldiers who died up until this point of time, their death will be meaningless. Which is one of the most horrific fucking things you can think about, especially as a soldier. So that's right, boys and girls. How many thousands of American soldiers continue to die in an illegal war in Iraq because Bush was such a fucking sniveling coward, he was not willing to say that there was a mistake and we need to pull out. Right? And that's the issue you get to with politicians wanting to project strength. I have to project strength. You have to project strength. They have to project strength. Everybody keeps escalating ever so slightly until everything goes to hell. Well, with her approval ratings still strong, she can still afford to resist and may, in the near term, benefit from resisting. And what happens when all these politicians benefit from pretending to be strong? He said, Prime Minister's approval ratings currently stand at 69% as of November 16th, among the highest in Japanese history, according to the Asahi Shimbun newspaper. So yeah, that's going on. That's going on. Lordy. Yeah. I'm sorry. Did you think 2025 was bad? Do you think 25? Oh, you're going to miss 2025. You're going to be in 2026, summer of 2026, remembering the utopian days of 25. Because it's only going to keep going. Because I don't think most of these politicians really know what the hell to do next, right? I beat up on Trump a lot because he's my fucking president. My fucking president, my fucking problem, right? So I beat up on Trump a lot. But one of the things I talk about Trump is I don't understand what the plan is. I don't understand what the win looks like. I don't understand what the loss looks like. I don't understand what we're even going for here other than essentially to escalate rhetoric, right? And so I talk about Trump a lot because, again, my president, my problem. But the reality is if you look at Europe, I don't see those motherfuckers having much of a goddamn plan. Right? When you hear the German minister talking about, de-risking from China, you see the European politicians come together to reinforce the idea of a European military or whatever. Right, man, they're just la 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 la, right? They're just saying shit. Like there's no they're not actually putting any of that horse crap into place. Right? Again, you have the Japanese prime minister come out and say this. Why? Why? And I'll tell you, I don't believe much in China. It's not like there's this idea that I'm like a sinophobe. I'm an anti-sinophobe. I don't know. Pro-sino? Sino-pro? Anyways, there's this idea like pro-fucking China. I ain't pro-fucking China either. I think they got a mountain of goddamn fucking problems they're not willing to admit to. And so, like, you're in this world where, as I've talked about that before, don't let it get fucking personal, right? As soon as shit gets personal, shit starts going sideways. And what I see on a geopolitical level is all the shit is getting personal by everybody. Everybody's little fucking feelings are getting hurt. And how does that end? Again, you think about this things like economically. Like what is the value of an item? Why do people buy one item or another? Why do people decide to buy an item or not decide to buy an item? Right? What if you simply have more and more people get disgusted with the idea of made in China? Like, what if you have more and more people in the United States, in the Western world, just they see made in China and it just makes them fucking nauseous. Can you believe this shit? Our corporate titans, you know, as they get richer, right? As Elon Musk gets $1 trillion, but the people in this country who need food stamps get ripped off of fucking food stamps. They're trying to sell us this shit made by slave labor over in China. I can't fucking stomach the idea of this garbage, right? Again, they talk about that with impulse buys. How many things are impulse buys? They don't talk a lot about impulse fuck-offs. Ew, right? And then when you have people in China, you have people in China. What? Fucking Whitey hates us. Whitey fucking hates us. Won't shut up about how inferior he thinks our fucking blood is. Motherfucker thinks our blood makes us toxic. Why the hell do we want to watch Hollywood? Why the hell do we want American products? Why the hell do we want Western products? And then, so many dominoes. I feel like that's the thing. I feel like with the Great Recession, it was like one set of dominoes. As I talk about, when Bear Stearns fell, I still remember drinking a cup of coffee. I still remember I was in downtown Baltimore, a little row house. I'd sit there in the morning, my back porch, I had my cup of coffee, my Kindle, reading the Wall Street Journal. I still remember when Bear Stearns fell, drinking my cup of coffee. And I still remember not giving two shits. Truly, sucks to be them. Right? I feel like right now, like we have gone from like one row of dominoes falling over to we're watching that one of those YouTube videos where it's this design of like 5 million dominoes, and once they knock one domino over, there's so many dominoes fucking falling, you can't keep your eyes on what's happening. I kind of feel like that's what's currently going on. And so yeah. And then there's a question. As you see the cascades of the dominoes fall, is there even a way to stop them? Even if somebody decided to de-escalate now, is there a way to stop it? It's kind of funny. Like right now I'm reading Andrew Ross Sorkin. I'm reading his book on 1929. And the fascinating thing is, again, with the Great Depression, most of the Great Depression, right, whatever. You hear 1929, stock market fell, right? And the curious thing he talks about, it's actually about a 2-year process. About a 2-year process, right? People were making money. People were making millions of dollars during 1929. Anyway, the stock market fell, then the stock market came up a little bit, and the stock market fell, and did this horse shit. And it was actually a while. It wasn't like the stock market fell and then the banks failed the next day. It was actually talking about that with Hoover. There was a time period with Hoover when even after the stock market fell, Hoover came out and was like, look, the fundamental economy is okay, right? The stock market fell, but banks are fine, factories are fine, employment is fine. The real economy is fine. It is just the gambling of Wall Street has fallen apart. Cry me a fucking river for the wannabe millionaire gamblers. Well, the issue was, is he just made that proclamation a wee bit too early. If he had waited another 6 months, he would have seen the factories going bust and the banks going bust and the whole 9 yards. He just made that statement a little bit too early. So anyways, that's what I'm looking at right now. Who the hell knows? Who knows what's going to happen? I will be here. I will be narrating your tour of the highway to hell. So what do you think about this? What do you think about the entire world ganging up on China? What do you think about a lot of frustration and anger that has been building up over 20 years? That kind of just needed that tipping point in the Trump administration to burst through. And now that we're seeing it, I don't know, where do you think this is going for the Western world? Where do you think this is going for China? Do you believe their propaganda? Do you honestly fucking believe they're half as strong as they pretend to be? What do you think about this? Again, for the Chinese politicians, when the entire world decides to start beating up on your civilization, what is the response? Anyways, put your thoughts Put your thoughts down below. If you like these videos, give us a thumbs up. If you hate these videos, give us a thumbs down. Call me amazing. Call me a dumbass. Just be a real Lutnick and put a strong American comment down there. Do you remember what I actually care about at Silicon Dojo? SiliconDojo.com, free to end user technology education that empowers you to do whatever the hell it is you want to do. We're having a class tomorrow on AI and web scraping. Completely full. Don't sign up for it. We're having a class on extending AI capabilities with REST APIs in a couple of weeks. That is available. We're going to be having more and more classes coming up. If you're interested, take a look at SiliconDojo.com to see what our schedule is. Do remember, free to the end user is not actually free. That's why I shake the brain nips every day. If you want to throw some money into the donor box link down below, that would be ever so lovely. And with that, see y'all later.